We all want to do. We're getting to the week or two, you pass it because you can see the green.
Space this morning, we need to be done, right? With them, at least 6 meetings.
Yeah, the first two, when we followed the steps, it was good. Then we switched something.
Steve, is your volume turned up on your phone?
You got it.
Okay, it's on now.
No, she's texting me when she's watching.
You got it, Bob?
Sounds like you just clicked on it.
Yep, Bob's got it
She's
back
telling
there.
me what you do, or he did.
Yep, you got it. All right, we're good.
I will call you tomorrow. We're gonna get something scheduled. They're fine again. Schedule one person from each of the other boards to come to the training.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Gwen was finishing up her.
Exactly, you lost people from that.
Anyway, I brought back what they did. I have minutes to show where they had done something and they undid it, even though I had given them the directives from us that we wanted, the letter first and the need and a justification. So.
Following of the ordinances?
So.
When you got questions about escrow and those other issues, it didn't seem like they really followed step by step. So.
Are they allowed to make changes?
If they follow the right steps and if there's an actual need and a hardship, yes. But every one of these was started because the planning commission wanted to remove something that our zoning administrator had put in. Even though they approved them, at least the two of them I have proof up here tonight, originally, they themselves saw it, noted it, and approved it. So it's very muddied waters as to whether they followed the ordinance or not. And that's probably why we need to bring in the attorney on these and get his opinion. Yeah.
Yes, Alvin.
The opinion of the planning commission of some of the members, but not all the members, is that the hardship was created by the planning commission. And the planning commission originally voted for those. It's the same stance we've had all along. Was because we were told by Luann that this was the training that Ms. Denzer took through the MTA, and that was what the MTA had recommended. The opinion of the planning commission is the township board and the zoning administrator did not follow their own procedures and policies and come to us and ask us to make them part of our ordinances, make them part of this special use. So it's an opinion of the planning commission of some of the board members, not all, that the hardship was created by the planning commission by allowing them to be put on there, by not taking up our own special use permits and allowing somebody outside of our commission to do it. That is the stance that the planning commission takes on.
Alvin, she typed them up, clear as can be, brought them to the board. The minutes say you looked them over. We read them, we approved them.
We questioned them every single time and said, why are these in here? And we were told the same thing.
And Cammie gave us those documents and showed us after some questions. She explained why they're in there, to bring us into compliance with law, to make us more streamlined. The zoning ordinance act says you should do this.
And what's the
so
stance?
Why would we make a change to put us at risk?
What's the stance of the planning commission? Let's go through the proper procedures and adopt them as part of the ordinance and use them all the time.
But they're in the ordinance, most of that stuff, and that's why they can be transferred into a special permit.
But not all. And we still, in the township board, did not follow correct procedures and come to us and say, these need to be adopted and added.
None of that is correct because these aren't in the ordinances. These are in the special use.
Only in the commercial section. They're scattered throughout the
we are allowed to put them in the permits when we write them, and that is what we did.
We as a planning commission did not.
We, the planning commission, did.
No, we approved them after they were added, after they were typed up and left the board. They're not in our original. So
we have quite a difference of opinion on the board, as you can see, and that's why we have 3-hour meetings.
Well, I do know we had quite a discussion when you and Ed brought it to the township board. I remember we saying we did not want insurance in there, a requirement for insurance. And I do remember we said we do not want inspections.
Okay,
if I may, I don't think any of that is the issue that you guys are having right now.
Yeah, I'm telling
think
you
the
what
issue
you
that-
did.
The issue that you guys are having right now is the fact that the board said that they had to have a written request and they didn't have a written request. And the ordinance requires that before you have a hearing, you have to collect an escrow to pay for the hearing. And so on the one, they didn't have the written request, and on the other one, they did have a written request, but they hadn't collected the escrow. The issues of what was in the permit has been hashed out a gazillion times. The issue that I think you guys are having now is whether or not the correct procedures were followed to make changes to the permit, not whether or not the changes were warranted.
According to our ordinances, we as a planning commission are allowed to go back and revisit these special use permits. And we felt that the hardship was created by the planning commission, that we didn't need to collect an escrow from them because of the simple fact we created it, not the individual. That's why we haven't asked for any type of
That's
When,
right.
when, when you
And-
reopen the special use permits, though, don't you have to basically start over with them?
no, nope.
Have public hearings and everything else for them?
Yeah.
We did have a public hearing, but it was, once again, members on the planning commission, not all, feel that it was created by the planning commission, the hardship was. A couple of the individuals did reach out and question why they were added. The verbiage. And they questioned it before we ever scheduled anything for it.
Not, no, but
Woody Clark,
I'm talking, okay, what about the motors?
Midwest Motors.
Midwest Motors.
I don't understand what took place there.
So
You're asking the
Midwest,
wrong person.
Midwest Motors, you told us, you said at the planning commission meeting that he sent a written request. And that was that was after the hearing was set. So
Yes.
how can you say that was a written request when he didn't send the request until the day before? And he sends a message, calls the office and says, what's going on with my special land use permit? Are you guys taking it away? So that is not in the order of the way that it was supposed to be done. The request should be from him, and then the hearing should be scheduled, and then you go through the process. You guys are not following the procedures in the process.
I'm going to
That's-
agree with you 100%, but I had nothing to do with any of it. So I can't answer the question that you just laid
Well,
out there. I'm not the one who reached out to them.
I don't know who did or did not do it. All I know is the planning commission is not following proper procedures.
And I did ask at meetings and I never got an answer. I'd say,
So-
who contacted this man? Did he write a letter? And nobody would answer.
So what was the problem with Midwest Motors? He was selling it and he wanted to know if he could keep it special.
No,
land use.
he was perfectly happy with it, going along. When he got his letter, he thought that his permit was being pulled. Because up until the time he got the letter informing him about that, he had no knowledge that there was a change being made. And
So why was it being pulled?
it
Or you
wasn't.
They just thought.
Well, misunderstood
Because they
that.
wanted to remove the wordage out of it.
But the point is, the man
That's
did
why
not
they were
know, and
opening
yet
it back
the
up.
hearing had already been scheduled. That's not proper steps, and I'm very uncomfortable with it. I said on that one, we need to table that until we can at least talk to the man in person. He wasn't in the room. So
I don't
you guys need
understand why
to
we're
bring back what happened.
opening up special use permits if nobody is requesting. I understand the planning commission feels that you had a hardship about these certain ones that you recently wrote, but if it's in there and they're happy with it,
I don't have an answer for you.
Ed, you're being part of the planning commission. You
Yes.
have any
So
information?
when I present what I'm going to present, it'll be clear that feedback from the zoning board of appeals says there's wording in our ordinances that we are following, and that the planning commission on its own initiative can do this. So we are following our ordinance.
It's rested in the wind, that he feels safe.
But you're working, you're hollering, you're complaining about is there's no letter from the applicant. We don't need a letter from the applicant per our ordinance. And I'll share that with you when I present tonight. So by rights, this board saying that we can't proceed without a letter from the applicant is actually not following our ordinance.
Okay. Anything else, Luann?
I just wanted to let you know what the directive I took, other than the fact they didn't want to put me on the agenda. So I talked during public comment. I guess that sometimes you have to do that to make things in a timely order of the meeting.
What, what do you, I guess I'm not following.
On Friday, I called and asked to be put on the agenda. I was
Okay.
informed that that had to be done by noon on Wednesday.
Okay,
So at the beginning of the meeting, like we did here, I asked to be added to the agenda. And they at first thought, well, maybe we could put you way down at the bottom. So I told them that what I was referring to and what I was talking about came from the board and concerned what we were discussing that meeting. So I needed to be at the beginning. So they hemmed and hawed, and then they said, well, I guess you can talk about it at public comment. So I did.
okay. Anything else on that? Okay, we'll go to number 4, tree removal quotes for cemetery.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ed. I'm a little ahead of myself. Sorry about that.
That's a handout for you too.
Can I ask why we weren't given the handouts prior to the meeting?
I was wrapping them up over the weekend, just wrapping them up, printing them up.
Well, that is a requirement that we request that we get written things before the meeting so that we have time to look them up. Just want to make note
I
of
did,
that.
I did provide, synopsis summary of it.
You didn't put anything written
Okay,
to
go
us.
ahead, Ed.
Okay. Okay, so Ed Maskey, 7951 Houston Drive, Millington, Michigan. With additional information provided to the Planning Commission just days prior to last Monday's meeting, Planning Commission did not have time to vote on the information that I'm providing tonight. So this information is being presented by me as a resident and also Planning Commission Vice Chairman. Between August 12, 2024 and October 14th, 2024, there were 5 special land use permit requests that resulted in final approval documentation issued with wording/permit conditions that had not gone through the ordinance amendment process or reviewed line item by line item with the special land use permit applicants. These items were added by the zoning administrator. The planning commission received multiple questions and complaints from the applicants, ultimately resulting in Morris's following a complaint with the zoning board of appeals regarding extra wording. During the January 30th, 2025 zoning board of appeals meeting for the Morris's special land use permit, the zoning board of appeals chairman provided information on how the extra wording in the approved permit could be used by the planning commission to make changes/corrections to the permit. Reference, which I'll play shortly, 2-minute video. It's really worth this board hearing it. After this information was provided, the Morrises withdrew their complaint, knowing there were other options. So, one of the conditions that's urging me is the one that gives them the option of fixing this. It states right here in this ordinance. The commission may, upon the request of the applicant or its own initiative, modify the requirements that permit from such findings of justification and upon the formal special use permit amendment be made under the same procedures. The initial permit. Therefore, making the planning commission using of all things the disputed language in this to make that modification. They have to go through a special hearing, follow all the rules. Instead of circumventing that, like, yeah, potentially it might be journey. If they have it, it's perfect, it's exactly the phrase. That's why I have real challenge with what I ask for. So we either uphold the permit as it is and deny the appeal, or, my gosh, we reverse the decision of the way, and which already still permits, they just start exploring. They keep stuff. Planning commission, I think, but we're even. But the reason it's still.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
But isn't that one of the things you want to take out of the permit? Is what actually made it so you could redo it?
And it's actually on page 10 of our ordinance. That wording that is there is actually the same identical wording. So the wording that is part of the permit is also on page 10 of our ordinance.
But you were taking it, at that point in time, you were taking that out of their permit.
Realize at that point in time that it was actually on page 10 of our ordinance. Now been highlighted to me that it is on page 10 of our ordinance, and the wording is identical.
Can you read that?
I don't have the ordinance.
So I have it, page 10, you're saying,
Yeah.
language. Can you read it, the whole thing?
It's number 8, it's at the very bottom. It says the commission may, upon request of the applicant or on its own initiative, modify the requirements of this permit upon such findings of review and justification, and upon a formal special use permit amendment being made under the same procedures used for adopting the initial permit.
So that's that sentence right here.
It's identical to that sentence, isn't it? So then it's in our ordinance.
It's also a need and a justification. Where's your need?
When Morris's came for that, if I'm correct in remembering, they came and asked for a change because, quote, we don't like the wording, some things were added. And then when we reviewed,
So
the permit that you guys approved is the only permit Tammy ever presented to the planning commission. And that's what we approved, knowing all that was in there and why. So them saying, I don't like the wording doesn't really fit a need or a
there was
justification.
other errors we found. Actually, I'll explain one under here further too. And I mean, Alvin mentioned, I see you left, but Alvin mentioned the need of justification also. Does this wording put hardship on the app?
How?
So, yeah,
How is it hardship?
that. I mean, we'd have to go through each one, line item by line.
Well, if there was a hardship, there would be 1 or 2 notes. This is what causes.
I should say extra inspections. Okay.
That was-
There was this inspection for the gravel pit that it basically said that the supervisor shall do an inspection once a year. Previously, it said the supervisor will be allowed. It didn't specifically say that he had to go through it. Well, there was additional wording.
You better look at the ordinance, so I'm pretty sure the ordinance
Oh.
requires the inspection.
So can I continue with your plan, Sharon? Okay. So considering the determination made by the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Commission Board has been working on making corrections to the 5 special land use permits. The work we have been doing follows our ordinances, which is very clear what we just read. I feel if the Millington Township Board would have known suggestions from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the additional direction provided during April 21, 2025, the township meeting may have been exact wording that's in the permits, and actually, as I noted, that's also in the Ordinance, the commission may, upon the request of the applicant or its own initiative, modify the requirements of this permit upon such findings of need and justification, and upon formal special use permit amendment being made under the same procedures used to adopt the initial permit. We did that. We had the public meetings. I reviewed the April 21 agenda prior to the meeting, and at that point, there was no planning commission item listed when it was posted on the window. So I didn't attend the meeting. Adding items to the published agenda during the actual meetings can limit the information received by the board, especially if the township board is not able to review different perspectives and views on the information being presented. Better decisions are made when all relevant information is provided. I ask that in the future, this board ask for input from the planning commission board to ensure all relevant viewpoints are being considered prior to approving motions that affect the operations of the planning commission board. And Millington Township Board supports this. Also, the relevant information needs to truly be the view of the entire planning commission board. Currently this is not happening. For example, during the June 9th planning commission meeting regarding the short-term rental corrections, Luann Jarzell made a comment that it doesn't matter if the permit states maximum of 4 people or maximum of 4 people overnight. However, it does matter. I had a family member look into renting one of the short-term rentals for our annual family reunion weekend this year. There were 2 couples planning to rent this short-term rental. So if they would have rented one that is limited to 4 people max, once another family reunion member would have stepped foot on the property, just visit for a short time, the short-term rental would have been in violation of the permit, thus setting them up to have the short-term rental permit revoked. This is a great example of the need and justification for the planning commission to make these needed corrections to the permits that have been previously issued. Again, this board needs to consider all relevant information before approving motions that affect the operations of the planning commission board. Thank you for your consideration.
Ed,
Go
go ahead, John.
and that's fine. That's good. You have procedures to follow. As long as you're following the procedures correctly and you want to change these hardship ones, that's fine. What are you changing one that he doesn't even know he's going to be on the agenda? He's been told that he's now getting his special land use permit reviewed.
So the wording that we've all been in question has been was similar with all 5 of them. So the board itself, if you say the wording's not looking for them, how do you ignore the 5th one? Because you're saying the wording's not correct in 4 of them, but you're not going to do anything with the 5th one. You're not doing your due diligence. You're not finishing your job.
What if it ain't a hardship?
Exactly.
Each one's trivial.
Or any of them a hardship.
I mean, it could be a hardship.
I mean, that's great that there's a procedure to fix things when something goes wrong. But if it's not wrong, if the owner of the special land use permit doesn't think that it's wrong,
and
what is the point in
actually
causing a bunch of...
And once the owner was brought up to speed, out to talk to him and so on, there was a letter issued. So they did identify and
Was he told to write a letter at the meeting?
From what we've been told, it was the day before the hearing, correct?
correct.
Now, what did the letter say? I don't know as we've ever heard what his letter
I
said.
helping forward it to the town.
Nope.
Did you give it forward?
I don't think so, Elvin.
I forwarded it to you.
Okay,
Did you just forward it to him or the whole board?
No, I have the rest of the boards.
And it wasn't at the planning commission where it was being discussed.
No.
And you're kind of exaggerating on these things, Ed. I mean, if there's 4 people renting the place and those 4 people are going to stay overnight and a couple of people come and have a picnic, You honestly think somebody's gonna be nitpicky and say, "Oh, there's too many feet on that property?" That is an exaggeration of your example for this permit. No, it is not going to
It's in
happen.
black and white. It's in black and white. And all it takes is someone to say, they had 6 people there,
They
only
already-
limited you to 4.
And
I think the answer to the whole thing is that as a planning commission needs to write these special land use permits.
I don't.
no, I
And
disagree.
then you get them correct the way you want.
And
So-
that used to be the history. That's the way it was always done until these last 5.
May I ask another question? Okay, so the big issue from the get-go has been that things were added to there. In the January meeting, you requested from our zoning administrator to bring in and explain all the things that she added that she said was from MTA, that she had said were from the law, recommendations from our lawyer. Okay, so she brought that to the February meeting. She sent it to all of you prior to the meeting. She went over it with you at the meeting. Mr. Zabit said, I think we all need time to look at this when we go home and review it and come back and discuss all of these options at a meeting, the next meeting. To this date, this thing that has been tabled has never been gone through. So you've never given the zoning administrator any chance to explain why we require liability insurance. And that in that, when you say liability insurance, you also say that it does not hold the township responsible, that the liability is on them. It's kind of like, just like when we do roadside mowing, the county requires us to give them a copy of our liability insurance. When someone does a job, when we have someone come out and do work at the cemetery as far as removing trees, we require liability insurance so that we're not responsible if someone gets hurt. So why wouldn't we have on a special land use permit liability insurance? This is something that Tammy could have explained to you, but you've never brought it up and worked together as a team saying, you've never said, this is the reasons we don't want these things in here. You've never talked to the zoning administrator about the things that you think are good to be in there. So how is this fair? How are you guys working with her or working with any of them to even make this a good flowing situation? So why didn't you ever bring this back and go over the permit and the proper procedures before you started changing all these things?
I have 2 points to
No,
add.
let him finish. Let him. Okay.
Okay, so I say for sure the liability insurance, when we first did the ordinances for short-term rental, was talked about and reviewed in depth. Okay, so we knew from that that ordinance amendment process, that township board at the time when it was approved didn't want it in there. So it's actually in there at one time and removed. You're asking me to answer the question, let me answer the question. Okay. I've also heard, it was good from people that yes, the township could be put in a bad situation if, let's say, you get a copy, if you require a copy every year of the insurance. They let it lapse through the middle of the year. Something happens, and then they have no insurance. But we say, well, okay, we are monitoring that. And now we didn't monitor it. Is the township going to be liable?
I have
Okay,
a point for that. Just a second.
Same
Those
conversation we
policies
had
and-
with you and Luann came to our meeting.
Yes. That's
We
why
said
we didn't
didn't
have.
want it.
But those policies have a hold as not liable clause in them.
And the other thing is, so when I go to
So
the
they
state
can't-
of Michigan and I get my license plates and they require me to have insurance, I get my plates and then I leave and I cancel my insurance. Does that put the state at risk? And the other thing is, MTA, we said we didn't want it before that she went to the class for MTA and before our lawyers recommended it. But these are things you could have discussed with her and she could have told you this is why it is recommended to protect us. But you never let you never brought it to a meeting, so none of us people as a citizen got to see why you didn't want it. You just decided on your own and moved forward without communicating with our zoning administrator.
When we made the amendment, Sharon, we did tell them why we didn't want it.
And that was before we went to the classes and the lawyers, and they recommended and they told
And
us.
when you learn,
I find it really ironic that Watertown Township, the Village of Millington, Franklin, Bertrand do not require insurance.
Again, you guys are talking two different things. You're talking the ordinance versus.
at our last meeting, the first part of the meeting went the same as all the others, but then at the end, we finally started to communicate, all of us, with Tammy. She asked questions, you asked questions, everybody answered. The last 20 minutes of that meeting was the way every meeting should be. We're all asking for communication, listen, accept another opinion. Maybe I'm not right because I've done it for 20 years. And I have one other thing. Tammy, can you maybe give us a few examples of some of the problems you found with the permits that were done in previous years before you went, got the education and cleaned them up? You brought some.
Well, I haven't cleaned any of them up.
Well, no, but I mean to clean up the process.
We have lots of permits that don't give any clarity or.
She brought a list to the planning commission meeting to show us. I mean, I'm not trying to put her on
I
the
don't
spot,
have any of those with me
but
right now.
there were many,
But there
and that's why we
wasn't anything that was included.
started to do things different.
So now you want to go back and clean them up like Ed?
No, we
the rest of the
can't.
planning board.
No, that's not what she's saying. She's just saying we need to do better.
She's trying to have
I
us.
agree with you. And I'm sure the planning commission realizes that. Agrees with
But why aren't they communicating and taking in everybody's account? Why are they just? There's only a few of them that seem to talk amongst each other and they shut down everybody else. Oh, that's my.
Nice.
I mean, again, if these items would have followed procedure, if they would have followed that, they would have been taught before and reviewed.
She did, and you
discussed.
wouldn't
Can I
do it.
finish?
Well, let him finish.
Okay, the first time we seen them, the first time we heard about it. Oh, the first time we seen them was when they were put in the permit.
When you
No.
requested her to
Yeah.
bring the information and why they
That's
were
what I'm
there,
talking well before.
I know that. But then you requested her to bring the information and go over it, and she did on the February meeting, and you tabled it. Why haven't you done that since? Why haven't you gone over all the things that she learned at the meeting and went through? Why haven't you done that?
The agenda's been too full. We do plan on going back through them. In actuality, it's not something that's gonna go
So
away.
wouldn't you do it before you do all these other things? Wouldn't that, aren't you putting the cart before the horse?
They don't belong in those, they created hardship. And
How is it a
my
hardship?
stance is the township didn't follow procedures, and the planning commission wasn't following procedures. We're correcting the mistakes we've made to move forward, all of us, and we are starting to communicate. We don't communicate as groups outside of the planning commission, ever. So there's not a group thing going on. I'm lucky if I talk to Doyle at all the whole month. I don't talk to Matt Opperman hardly ever. Typically, we don't talk about planning commission stuff. Ed is about the only one I talk to. Luann, I talk to you more than I talk to Doyle and Opperman. So there's not a thing
No,
where
you
we
didn't
get
talk to
together.
me at all.
There you go. That tells you right there. We come to the
I'm the
meetings
only
with our
one that doesn't know
information.
what's going on. at a
We
meeting.
come to the meeting with the information, we sit down. We are all different members of this township. My opinion is completely different than Ed's of what goes on. Those issues that she brought are not that. They still need to be brought back up and we still need to look at it. The supervisor said it very frankly when he said that you guys removed them out of our original ones. So we didn't feel the need that we needed to put them in front of the other ones. And I'm only one vote on the board. So there's other members on the board and how they all vote.
Okay, you got anything else?
Nope.
Ed?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing is tree removal quotes for the cemetery.
So when I had the first, I called 3 different tree companies. One of them did not return my phone calls, and 2 of them came up to give me a quote. As you can see, the above all service and hauling, his total was 5,500. And he writes down everything that he was going to do. The second estimate I gave you. Actually, let's go back to the one called tree service. So their estimate was very close to half of the price of the other one. He is a local, um, resident. He said he would like to help out the township, so he is giving us a price break. That quote came in at $2,800 for everything that we asked him to give us a price for. Since then, Larry has brought to my attention that another tree is split and will need to be removed. So he went back out, updated the quote. So we have two quotes. The one is 3,600, but that has everything that we need to have done there. And that's an extremely good price. The other one, the other service that came out, the above all tree service, they did not, I didn't have them come out to give us a second quote, seeing as their bid was twice as high already as the other one. So I just wanted to get approval to hire.
Laura, this one here along the road, is that the one by the drive?
There's two.
Must have been Rod.
Yeah, there's two. And
Larry brought my attention.
yeah, and he had
Oh, Laura.
the second one.
Okay,
And there's another one.
Okay.
So at probably the next meeting, you're gonna have me bring in an estimate, take that some trees planted, because I do like the trees by there, and it looks nice.
well, they've probably been there a long time.
So we'll probably have to replace those. So those are the estimates that I have for the tree work there.
Do you know anything about this one, Paul? I mean, it's a good company.
I looked online.
Okay,
I didn't even realize he was a Millington resident. I went for the tree companies that had 5 stars. I only went with the ones that had 5 stars.
okay. Well, if you're comfortable with them. Hey, good job. Digital sign policy. It was brought to our attention, we need to come up with a policy for digital sign. In other words, what information we put on it. Jackson put this together and, oh, you did, I'm sorry. I thought Jack. Good job anyways.
You
Well, I thought Jackie did, but anyways. It was brought to our attention, we really need to have some kind of policy. Never had any problems yet, but I guess it's always possible.
And this was all reviewed by our lawyer, and he's the one that made the recommendation, so I just put in what he recommended in the verbiage. Do you have any questions? But that's right.
What was the original problem?
There was no problem.
There was no
It brought to our
policy.
attention that we should have a policy. Because let's say if you allow somebody to have something on there, but the next person you don't. We've never had that problem. I guess it's always a possibility.
It's my understanding someone came in and said that we had something illegal on the board. But it was-
Well, there was complaint about St. Paul's chicken dinners or whatever, but I realize there should be a policy just in case. Any other questions on the digital sign policy? West Point. Compensation for storm damage cleanup at cemetery.
This is what started the tree project when we had the,
Yeah.
like those straight line things come through. Larry and Terry worked a lot of extra hours to get things cleaned up. They each worked 21 hours over, so they had still not been compensated for that. So basically, I'm just asking for approval to give them a paycheck for them working overtime, but it would be just the regular wage.
So how much, what's the amount you're talking?
We do not.
Oh, you don't
I
have-
thought
you
she
just-
thought she was gonna put it, but it's 21 hours for.
21 hours.
With all the range, this would be out normally get.
Right. Yeah,
Them guys done a wonderful job, and it was just before Memorial Day also.
Yeah.
And so, and I know the village also came to help us, and I thank Garth for that.
I was out of town, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Garth, he cleaned up along Fulmer Road there, and they brought the excavator in with a claw, it's a dump truck.
Good job.
So I thank Garth for that. He said no problem anytime. Always good to work back and forth with the village. I mean, they helped us, we helped them. Okay, the next thing is number 7, Bob Worth.
Thank you for allowing me to be on your agenda. I do not have a dog in any of these fights, but it's just disturbing to see what is transpiring. And you said somebody complained about the sign.
it was me who called Jackie and said, Jackie, I just wanna have you guys look into if it's legal to have St. Paul advertised up there. Because I remember when I was on the board, those things were not allowed. It was against the law. And Jeannie got back with me and says, you were right. We need a policy for that. So that's where that came from. It was no complaint. It was just, I'm concerned. I'm trying to look out for you guys because things get overlooked. If you don't know, you don't know. You can't fix it. Okay. One of my things I want to talk about tonight is the township attorneys. This is up until last meeting in May. You guys have spent $8,068.63 in attorney fees. Wow. And looking at last month's video, I see that Laura Cameron had problems with the township attorney responding to a request that she had made, correct?
He was tied up in court, so he did not get back to the time plan.
Robert had the same issue. And Laura went out on her own and contacted an attorney to get the FOIA request information that was needed because of a timely manner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I remember in March, I believe it was at the meeting when the township board, some members tore Robert up a little bit because he responded to an email and the township was billed $50 for him responding to an email. Remember that?
Mhm.
And there was a understanding that night that nobody was going to be allowed to contact another attorney without board permission. That went out the wayside. You guys are abusing, in my opinion, the attorney privileges of the township. Luann, I don't know how many times tonight you talked about contacting the attorney.
But I didn't do
Waiting,
it yet.
waiting to hear. Come on, you guys. You guys have a dog in this fight, but we need to do better. It's just crazy, you know. This township attorney. I do recall that Tammy referred this new attorney to the township board, because I'm assuming, I don't want to say what assuming means, but that she has prior knowledge of these people or worked with them due to her day job. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But if they're not returning your request in a timely manner, I think it's time to move on to maybe somewhere that like she just went into and stuff. Buckham Sparks and whatever.
They do respond in a timely manner, Robert.
Okay.
If you contact the right one.
And
Okay.
they are not acquaintances of Tammy's. When she brought that to the board, she said, I work with other attorneys and I asked them who would be good in township business. And they referred her to them. So it wasn't a personal relationship, just to clarify.
I just want that answer. And you know, personal agendas I think are just terrible for the township. Because I had heard at multiple meetings about the I don't say that the commercial businesses not being allowed in ag residential district. I spent some time up in Carroll last Thursday, and there are 4 commercial businesses that I just looked up real quick. Draper Trucking, which was also, if you will, probably industrial because he was building semi-trailers in the pole barn also. Like his trucking business. They're on Birch Run Road, just west of Sheridan Road. You've got Bob's Truck Body. They're on Birch Run Road by Pearson Road. That's been a commercial business for That's when in the eighties, when the Millington party went out of business, they adopted it over. So
Not
the
very
business
hard.
out there, oh, but it's still commercial. Still listed as commercial at the treasurer's department. And then you've got the New Life Child and Family Institute up here in Millington Road. I know that some believe that it is nonprofit. You're in the Treasury Department, your treasurer's office is commercial. And then you've got Barnum's out here in Vassar Road that is also commercial. Barnum's was just sold. And I believe, Tammy, that your mom had that listed on Millington Hometown News through J. McLeod Realty. And I see that on Millington Hometown News today, it says, welcome new owner of Barnum's, Trevor, or something like that. I'm just curious. Because I watched the planning commission meetings and whatnot. I missed the first hour of last week. Was a special land use permit ever required or talked about needing for transfer of ownership of that? Because did that person buy that property, that commercial property? Don't they have to follow the ordinances and request a special land use permit? So they're not transferable, right? Right? Has that happened? Or did this person just buy a piece of property and
Can I say something about it?
Yeah.
Bob Barnum brought in his original permit back in 1960 or 1957, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
So I contacted the attorney. You want to know, can I sell it as a business?
Okay.
I contacted the attorney, get his advice. He told me that permit follows the land. In other words, once you have a permit, you have a permit for it.
So special land use permits don't expire and need to be transferred.
According to what the attorney's advice was.
Boy, isn't that kind of different than what you're thinking?
With the new ordinance they do. Our new ordinance says they have to, they're,
No, be careful what you're saying. He's just saying that no, it
This
goes
is
with
what
the
the
property.
And if
permit
the
goes
permit-
with the land.
if the permit was issued for 10 years, it has to be renewed in 10 years. Because that's what the
Could they
permit
given
is.
them a variance, Bob? Is Bob variances are transferable, special use permits or not?
I don't only think I'm saying.
In other words, once he had a permit for a junkyard, that permit was good. Well, that's what I got from the attorney.
But Elvin is
But the
saying,
permit follows the land. That was his answer.
If it's a variance, that's.
Oh, I don't know about I'm saying permits.
so that
I
would
didn't
be
ask for
checked on.
variance.
There's another attorney bill.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. There seems to be a questionable possible double standard. And I just think that the township needs to be very careful. Let's see. The zoning board of appeals meeting is what, Wednesday for PCA management. I know you're probably attorney client privilege. What was the conflict of interest? Was there a conflict of interest when he began making motions? No. Okay. All right. That answers that. I also Thursday at the clerk's office, I've been heard about this. I'm looking to see that TCA management is suing Joanne personally. Did find that case, and I have copies of whatever if anybody wants to see it.
Why don't you just shut up about that?
And,
Everybody doesn't even know about.
Wait, it's okay.
Wait.
right up
Honey,
here.
it's public knowledge.
Right up here.
Well,
I know.
You can ask him to leave $150 fine.
But give the man a break. He's had a head injury. He'll be
Okay,
all right.
that's- Okay, continue. on.
Okay, but anyways, I got looking at this, and I'm looking at the attorney, and it is Heidi D. Hudson out of, suburb Detroit against
Farmington Hills.
Farmington Hills and, anyways. So now I came up in late April to ask, because I'd heard about this. Ask if the township was paying for this, and no, they're not gonna, the insurance company's not gonna pay for Luann's attorney representation. So now that has been reversed, and the township's attorney, or the township's insurance company, EMC or ECM, EMC is putting the bill for Luann's attorney on the township's dime.
No. Yes, they are representing me, but it was an error when they said they wouldn't. And when they reviewed it, they realized they made a mistake, and that is why they are covering it.
Even though it's personal.
No, it's not personal.
It's due to the,
It's due to planning commission and
You
board.
guys don't have to respond to that.
Sometimes the meetings for administrators or
Township board's supposed to,
part of the planning commission.
planning commission's supposed to,
Sorry,
the chairman.
sorry.
They knew it didn't happen.
Anyways, okay, but was the township told that
yes,
your EMC insurance is gonna cover them?
yes,
I
You
was,
say no, you say yes.
yes, they were.
There was an email,
So
yes.
there's not, the communication isn't there.
There's an email.
at the time I asked Jeff Lansky and he says, no, not at this time. And that's on last I heard.
Okay,
It's not fun. I guess I'll have to send an email.
so
I guess you'll have to, but I ain't gonna.
Jeff Lansky, I have a question.
No, Jeff Lansky's doing his job. It was because of this.
This set, you know, when I referred personal attorneys to personal agendas, I remember being here 18 to 24 months ago, standing right out there, speaking with, there's a couple of people in the office. And it referred basically the same thing as that Ina Mails's letter said for last month or last week's planning commission meeting about we worked real hard to stop this kind of thing. I'm paraphrasing now. I was told in this office that the end goal was to shut it down. Okay. I'm just telling you what I was told in this office.
You're just
And
reporting gossip.
I think that you realize that I have a pretty. But I'm just saying that these things are going to cause trouble, more trouble for the township. And I would like to have the township reconsider their appeal for the planning commission's decision against TCA. Because if it gets turned down Wednesday or you know, the planning commission's decisions gets reversed, I think we all know where it's going to go. It's going to go right to court. And I'm assuming that after what I'm speaking tonight, I might be called to violence. And so we'll go from there. But I just wanted to tell you guys that and tell you that no businesses are allowed in residential is not true. There's at least 4 of them out there that I know. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, zoning administrator's report.
I have nothing to report.
You have what?
Nothing. to
Oh,
report.
okay. Other than what's here? Okay, old business. Zoning Board of Appeals paid for public hearing. Anybody know anything about that?
Well, Mr. Bernard was here last month asking that when we do more than one hearing per meeting, because they could get paid per hearing instead of per meeting. So I just wondered if the people on the township board thought about that over the last month, and what their thoughts are, since we didn't revisit it at that time. Want to keep it as one payment per meeting or one payment per hearing.
Do we do the same for the planning commission?
We get paid per meeting.
But what I'm saying, if you have more than one case
One hearing, no, they do
for
not.
1 year,
No, they do not. So try to keep it the same, that's fine.
I would say leave it the same personally, but that's only my opinion. Okay, anything else on the zoning board of appeals? Paid for public hearing. Okay, the next thing we've got is border review. Board, I brought this to the board last time, and I added corrective action at the bottom. If public peace during border review meetings is violated, the participants may be asked to leave. I would like to make this a policy for our board review. We had a couple problems, and unfortunately, we gotta have something in there to make these people leave. Hopefully, it never happens. But what happened at the March board review meeting, it should never happen again. So that's what I got. Second public comment,
We have a 5 minute break.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
I guess so. Thank you.
Sorry. Right over. No.
Well, I should put more policy on this. That's what I have to have. I have was, I think it's kind of infusion.
Short answer, yes, but it has since been already, yeah. I just haven't updated it. It's completely fresh. It's, yeah, yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get back at it. Second public comment. Is there any second public comment?
Always Evans. I have a few comments. So between the two board, your guys' board and their board, a lot of tension between their boards and Homer upgrading. The planning commission is trying diligently to correct the mistakes that it's made and start following procedures better and move forward in a positive direction. And that includes all of us, Luann, you guys, for the township, for the better need of the township. There, it just seems like we're struggling over a few issues that we keep running in the same circle over and over and over again. At the last meeting, I'm done. I want to do what they're going to do. Let the planning commission's members vote how they're going to vote and just move forward and get them off the agenda and move forward. There is other things we do need to address in it. And there's some of the stuff that Ms. Dunn's are brought to our board. That stuff does need to be looked at and probably adopted or gone right through. When there's other things, she just passed out 2 pamphlets to us that you guys typed up some stuff that you guys would like to have amended for us to go through. There is a lot of stuff. I've been addressed by a couple citizens that would like for us to look at a couple of ordinances for different issues that need to be brought to the board. They've been overlooked too because the agenda's so full. And we keep running in the same exact circle, the same issues that we never get past. And I'm frankly tired of it. I know some of the board members are, for sure. And hopefully this next meeting, we can be done with some of this, we can move forward in a positive direction and start to work better. Are we all ever gonna vote the same? Hopefully never. Hopefully that never happens. You know, I'm a business owner in this community. I look at things completely different than Ed. Bill's a farmer. He looks at things completely different than Ed. You know, and that's the same thing with Matt Opperman. It's the same thing with Darzel. We all look at things a little different. We all represent a different part of this community and this township. It's the same with you guys. So for all of us to be on the same page all the time, voting the same and everything's great, and we can get up there and have an hour meeting and be in and out of there. That to me is like, you guys have said stuff to us about our meetings being too short and we didn't discuss that long enough over certain issues that we've had, that we pushed them through. We didn't take the time to deliberate and listen to the audience and listen to people out there. So for the comment to be made that we have 3-hour meetings, I mean, yeah, we do have 3-hour meetings. There's too much on our agenda. And some of the stuff that we're doing, it's the same thing over and over and over. Hopefully we can all get past this, including you guys, because you guys are struggling up here as a board too. And there's tension on your guys' board. It's terrible. And that tension, our boards, there's tension terrible. And we're all clashing. And everybody here sees it. And they're all mocking us constantly about how we conduct ourselves in front of them. But yet, if we all agree on something, we all come to the same agreement, they're going to mock us just as hard. Because then it's going to be, we talked outside of our meetings. So I hope all of us can somehow or another find ways to start working together. And we all do need some more training. We need training on the Zoom. We need more meetings and more conferences. We do need more training. And there's things always changing with MTA, with the state. Hopefully we can all figure out a way to resolve all of this and stop thinking that I'm out to get someone, Will's out to get someone, Luann's out to get someone. None of us are out to get anything. No one is out to pull anything anybody. And we're all just one vote on these boards, including my vote. I don't make the decision on everything that takes place on that board. Neither does Mr. Loomis, neither does Mr. Darzel, neither do you. So sometimes things go the way we want. Sometimes things go through that we don't really agree with. And I hope everybody can take that consideration, that there's a lot of times that not all of us board members agree on something. Sometimes we may vote for it, but it doesn't mean we 100% agree with it. Thanks for your assistance.
Thanks, Alvin. Anybody else?
Back in the meeting minutes from last month, from May, there was discussion about gravel work on the roads, known between our villa and Willard, clause and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, Sharon brought up that attention needs to be done to the ditch on our villa road between Fulmer and M15. What was the reason for that?
Just that if you're doing the ditch on that road, why don't you consider the whole road? That's what I.
But if the work doesn't need to be done and it's not necessary, why would you do it?
I just asked them to ask the county what they thought. Didn't say it had to be done.
Just curious. It's not the fact that you own that property on that section and want your ditch cleaned.
I just asked if you're doing the whole ditch, why don't you do the whole ditch?
I just found it interesting because Bob mentioned personal agendas. That highly falls under a personal agenda when you want your personal ditch cleaned at our taxpayer expenses, not clean. And then I finding out that the township insurance is going to be covering a personal lawsuit on a board member's lawsuit. Does that mean every resident of Millington Township now has coverage? If you get coverage, that should mean every single one of us, if we ever need anything, covered. What's good for one is good for all. Second question, how much is the insurance going to go up for having to cover your lawsuit? We have a right to know that. It's our taxpayer dollars. And I guess that pretty much covers it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Anybody else? Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Steve Lay, $7,600 Osborne Drive. Melvin talks about, 3-hour meetings. A lot of what all this that we're seeing centers around just not following policy and procedure. We talked about it. I talked about it last month. I've been talking here for years, and I don't want to be a broken record on that. But if we stick to the procedures and we stick to the ordinances, you can't get into trouble. When you don't, then you got the finger pointing going on. And the horse has already left the barn on several issues, as we all know. And just follow the ordinances, follow the procedures, put your personal crap aside. There's enough of that to go around, and not just this board. I mean, it's other places. Mr. Maskey was up here and he said that between August and October, 5 permits were issued. Well, that's debatable. I know the aggregate permit was issued. A couple of FTR permits were issued. The Midwest Motors was issued. All of those were signed by, planning commission. We got into this debacle about who did what and what happened. They forget to mention tonight that they signed it. They read what they were doing and what they were signing. Again, follow procedures. You don't sign anything. You're signing on behalf of the township. You're signing on behalf of us. Read the damn stuff. I don't care how many pages it is. Do some homework. Don't do it all here. You don't get paid every time you open a book. I'm starting to rant. Sorry about that. But one of those was never issued, and maybe last June this month was maybe debatable. But this whole thing for this planning commission not following on these permits, you're talking these rehearings, several $1,000s, just thousands of dollars per meeting. $385 to put an ad in the paper. And then we show up with Exhibit A. We forgot to bring Exhibit A. I'm the chairman of the PC, but I don't bring the letter that I got yesterday that came after the cart that already, got the cart before the horse. Didn't even bring that. And we all spent $1,000 for their salary to sit there. It's embarrassing. I would put my head down. At least you guys look at me when I talk. There are members on that planning commission that are so egotistical, they don't even look at you. They're arrogant. And they need to be reeled in. And that's the leadership. We can't have masqueraded leadership. We've got to have, I'm excited what I see. I'm seeing some change. For 4.5 years, we had masqueraded leadership. Now people are asking some questions, kicking some tires, looking at the ordinances, following procedures. Respect the person that's got all this training and background. Even though I've seen her sit there, Tammy Dancer, and direct the planning commission on what the hell to do next because they were lost. And that's happened a dozen times. And maybe a little bit even up here. So, you put some overnight lodging in a residential area, and that's why we're here defending our homes. That's why. Let's get it right. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, any other second public topic?
Ed Mashke, 7951 Houston Drive. As Alvin had mentioned, definitely additional training can also always be beneficial. Support them. Just to go to the concern that Luann had with the meeting minutes. Basically, why we tabled those was Luann said that the MTA requires that once the wording is documented, we can't change it. And we said that's the first I've heard because usually meeting minutes are open for corrections, changes until they're voted on and approved. So we as the board decided to table that until Luann can bring us that verbiage from MTA that says she cannot change those. Just want to clarify that. We still plan on bringing up.
I have something to clarify. It was the changes you told me to make before they were ever presented to the board that she said could not happen. Then she told me how to change them at the meetings, and yes, that will come back to the planning commission. But getting an email from a board member before a meeting, the correct minutes that haven't been seen by the whole board is not proper ever. So we have to do it all at a meeting, and it's just as simple as that.
But then in a previous meeting, when I tried to make corrections in the meeting, you asked that I contact you outside of the meeting.
I said if you see a comma's missing or a misspelled word, that kind of we can change, but not content.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Ed. Any other second public comment?
upwards. On your RV on vacant properties, I would highly encourage planning commission or someone to check with the health department. Because you are going to need a policy on sewage disposable on that. And, Jerry White, toilets, outhouses are not allowed. So you're gonna have to have a policy on when you give these 6-month permits. How are they gonna dispose of their sewage?
Do they have to be inspected probably, Bob?
Like you have to talk to Jerry White,
Okay,
because that's gonna be another thing, whereas.
you're talking temporary housing, or temporary.
Yeah.
Residents.
Well, you got people moving, or staying in RVs for a certain amount of time. How are they getting rid of the sewage? Because I think we all know that there's been instances where people have been digging holes and dumping their sewage, the raw sewage. And with the health department, that doesn't apply. And that's another thing, like where Sharon had mentioned about you go to get a license, your license, and you have to have particular insurance. Then you leave the Secretary of State's office and cancel it. It'd be the same thing with a waste company that if you support John's, how do you stay on to make sure that people are going to keep up with it? Just policy need to be like that.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Anybody else? Second public comment.
I would just add to the conversation that we're having tonight that your township insurance should in fact cover board members who are acting in an official capacity, doing their due diligence. If your township insurance didn't cover board members that were acting in an official capacity, no one would do any of this. That's
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Action item. Number 1, resolution to reserve final approval for master plan adoption.
I make a motion to adopt a resolution to reserve the final approval for master plan adoption.
What's the point?
Yep. I make a motion to adopt a resolution to reserve final approval for master plan adoption.
Or did that, Gerald?
Yeah.
Okay. You heard the motion, has been seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed. Tree removal quotes for cemetery. So you're comfortable with this company, Laura? Okay. I'll make a motion. We allow Laura to spend $3,600 for tree removal, tree trimming, and stump grinding.
For one.
Yeah, for one called tree service.
Support.
You've heard the motion, been supported. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a roll call. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Cameron, yes. Heinen,
Yes.
Jarzell,
Yes.
Loomis,
Yes. Okay, digital sign policy and request form.
It looks pretty complete, and I make a motion that we approve the Millington Township digital sign policy as presented to us tonight. Support.
You've heard the motion, it's been supported. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those approved? Motion passed. Compensation for storm damage cleanup at cemetery.
That's for the 21 hours for each.
For each one? Okay.
and Terry.
Also, I'll make the motion that we pay both sets teams 21 hours. Great. 21 hours.
And I'll support that. Been motion to pay the sections 21 hours extra pay for storm damage. Been seconded. Is there any discussion? Not Laura, you roll call, please.
Jarzell,
Yes.
Heinen,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Cameron, yes, and Loomis.
Yes. Zoning Board of Appeals paid for public hearing.
Since we don't do it for the other boards, I feel like we'll keep it as is, so we won't need a motion.
I agree.
This dies there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no motion, so.
So I also added number 6, board review policy, since I brought it up, I think this is the third time. I make a motion, we approve the board of review policy.
Public peace policy?
Yep, the board of review public peace policy. We need to adopt the policy.
Support.
Then a motion to approve the board of review public peace policy has been supported. Is there any discussion?
I got just a question.
Sure.
Where do the policies go? Where do we find
I think
policies?
I think they got a folder with policies in it, don't they?
Jackie has them.
Jackie's got them, I don't.
All the policies are.
And I do believe she's posting, if she puts them in an electronic file as well now. So that there's an electronic file in the computers and there's a paper.
So like on our website, it would be.
I don't know if it's on the website as of yet, but we would, all of us, it'd be in a shareable file, all of us can get to see.
Okay.
Your orientation. Oh.
Okay, supervisor's report. Oh, I'm sorry.
You made the motion.
Okay, there've been,
Seconded.
okay, there've been a motion to adopt the let's see here, the board of review public peace policy. It's been supported. Is there any discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed. Okay. Supervisory report, been working on more land splits and combinations. As I said, I've been working with Bob Barnum on his sale out there. They did investigate the ditch issue on our Bealer Road between F-15 and Fulmer. I found the only reason why we're doing a ditch on our Bealer Road to be just east of Irish Road is because every time we get a rain, that road is flooded. I got with the engineer from the road commission. I said, how can we solve this? He said, we need to dig a small ditch, and that's what we're doing. I see no issue on our Bealer Road between F-15 and Fulmer as far as the road's concerned. We got a tire drive July 19th here at the township. It's from 8 to noon or whenever the trailer's full. June 22nd, we've got a van and food trucks out to the park. It's just something we're trying to bring people in. If you're interested, please stop by. It's June 22nd.
Yeah.
June 21st. I'm sorry, June 21st. I got
Saturday.
yeah, June 21st, which is this Saturday. Been working on a lot of legal matters of the township. That's it. I know we talked about the master plan. We need to do something with the Cooper subdivision to get that installed or put that on the master plan. And also got some concern about the 4-to-1 ratio over 10 acres. So I'll be talking to the planning commission about that, and it's their opinion whether they want to do something or not, but I know the Cooper subdivision, something needs to be done.
When was the tire drive?
July 19th. Anything on the fire department or?
Yeah, the firefighter open house, we are combining it with Village National Night Out, and that is July 31st. We are the board, the fire board. We are going to supply some of the food and help serve the food. And other like,
Whatever we need to.
yeah, whatever we need to do. So we're gonna be doing the food so that the firefighters can do open house and demonstrations, and they have quite a big showing, I guess, up here. And I think there's also gonna be hot dogs, and like the women's club is donating things and giving out. So we're gonna be pushing a lot of the information, advertising it, but it is July 31st, which is a Thursday from 6 to 8, I believe.
I'm sorry, Sharon, did you say the township board was gonna do some of that?
Yes, the township board, we're
Okay.
well, not, well, the fire board. The fire board we're gonna be serving the food
Okay.
and helping with whatever they need. And with the girl that's in charge of it all. Helping them.
That's Thursday, July 31st,
Yes,
6 to 8. Okay, sounds good. You guys got a golf outing coming up too?
they do, and I think it's this coming weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so
Seemed like I seen something, I'm not a golfer, but it seemed like I seen
Yeah.
something after.
21st.
Oh, okay.
$250 to go out play. It's a 4-person.
I'm not a golfer, I'll be saying that.
So that's all I have right now.
I'm not for sure. Is Gerald and Laura, are you on the police board?
I'm on the fire.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Oh,
on
okay.
the police.
I heard there was something about our patrol cars down. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, the
Okay.
voltage, so they're thinking it's battery related. The siren quit working in the middle of a call.
Oh,
And so then the battery got low and then it threw a transmission code. So I've been in contact with the mechanic and he said he'll let me know when he has an idea. But I found out about it first thing this morning. When I called him, it was like 8:30 and he said he had a full day lined up. So he said he wasn't going to be able to get to it till probably tomorrow. They said he'd give me a call when he had a routine. So.
yeah, because Matt Clark asked me right away. I said, Matt, I'm just getting back this morning. I know nothing.
I didn't know anything about it.
Okay, good. Nothing real serious then.
Correct.
Good. Rails and trails?
I had appointments and didn't attend this meeting and they didn't send me anything to let me know.
Okay. As far as the park, we got our surveillance cameras and burglar system working. We're looking maybe add on some for the Boy Scout building. Just basically clean up, and like I say, we got a band, and I think they got a disc golf tournament also. Not involved in that, but and also 3 food trucks. This summer, trying to bring the public in.
You ever get the drainage fixed?
Oh, we're still working on that. The soccer field. Yeah, they just got
Gotta run a drain somewhere.
Yeah, from the Shermans and stuff all the way back. And, it's not really I don't want to say the park, it's park property. The soccer field takes care of it, but we're gonna help them out. So, no, they just got done with soccer, I think it was last week, so now we can get a handle on that.
Didn't want to tear it up in mid-season.
No,
Did you try?
yeah, so
Lots of-
that's all I've got. I'll make a motion to adjourn. There's been a motion to adjourn, been supported. Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed. Yeah, I was gonna sign, but I wasn't sure which one to sign. Probably getting that. Yeah. Pretty well, that was,
I like, that's a place.
Yeah.
Thank
I'll
you.
just mark it up for you.
You actually find it.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yes, so motion, so next week, we can approve. So that's the one that we just did, I guess we just talked forward,
Yeah,
that one. Okay. Okay, so is this, did we stop the recording?
I'm trying.
Okay,
Thought I did, but it
You
didn't.
got it going, but you can't stop it.
Yeah,
see, stop streaming.
I stopped streaming, I stopped recording,
Oh, yeah.
I exited.
Yes, that's it.
We're getting.
That's it. Thanks, Cheryl.
All right. You guys have a good night.
You too.
And it's just before all the.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no.
It's cooler out here.